Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Tejas, and I welcome all of you to this session that I'm about to conduct for all of you today. Uh, Let me begin by thanking all of you for taking time out and being present for this session. From wherever you're joining it from, and I hope all of you are staying indoors, all of you are safe, and all of you are taking care of your families very well. Now, before I begin with this session today, let me give you a brief introduction of about myself. My complete name is Tejas Madan, and I'm from the 2011 batch of Padma Bhushan Vasantdada Patil College of Engineering. After I did my engineering, I joined Tata Consultancy Services and worked there for about three and a half years as a system engineer. Then I took a break of about a year, and then I did my MBA in marketing and analytics. And then I joined TCS back as a marketing manager in their Internet of Things unit. So today's topic is also Internet of Things, and I'm sure you know pretty much all of you would have heard about this term IoT or Internet of Things, but I'm sure all of you, like me, are also confused about what is Internet of Things, correct? What is Internet of Things, right? So, in layman terms, or let me give you, a proper definition. And by definition, Internet of Things means an ecosystem of connected physical objects and devices that are accessible through the internet, right? Now, this is what we all understand by the bookish definition of what Internet of Things is. But let me give you another example, a simplified version of what IoT is. Now imagine, you're sleeping in your home, right? And 7 o'clock, sharp 7 a.m., your alarm clock, rings. You wake up and you put your feet on the ground. Now, the moment you put your feet on the ground, the window blinds automatically open up, right? Then you walk around, you go towards the your bathroom. You open the bathroom door and you see the geyser is already on, and hot water is already coming out with the exact temperature that you like. Then you take your shower and you come out of the bathroom and you look towards the right on the dining table. The coffee is already ready. No, it's not your girlfriend or your wife, but it's the automated coffee machine which has got the coffee ready for you. You have your coffee, get dressed up, walk towards the door. Now, as you walk towards the door automatically opens up. You go outside, take a left, walk towards your garage door. The garage door automatically opens up. The car comes out, the door opens up. You sit inside the car, and the car starts driving you towards your golf course. Why? Because your car knows that today is a Sunday, and on a Sunday, you prefer playing golf in the morning, right? Now, this entire paradigm of connected things, intelligent things, autonomous things is what is called as Internet of Things. All of these devices, all of these things are connected over the internet and are doing things or making life easier for you and me today. Now, this simple scenario which I have just narrated to you can be extrapolated to any other scenario that you can think of, be it an industry, manufacturing, vehicles, cars, aeroplanes, any right from a pin to a plane, anything that you can think of which you can connect a sensor to get real-time data from, you can convert that into an IoT device. Now, coming to the primary components of IoT. Now, the primary components of IoT are sensors, connectivity, people, and process. As you may all, I mean, you would have already judged it by now that the basic fundamental of IoT is that you need some input from a device, some input from a machine, some input from any equipment that you want to, that you're talking about, for example, right? Now, how do you get that information from that device, hardware, whatever it is? It is by placing a sensor over it. All right. Now, once you place a sensor over it, that sensor keeps reading real-time data from that equipment, hardware, machine, whatever it is. Now, once it starts reading, what you need is you need that sensor data to be transmitted somewhere where you can compute that data. Now, how would you compute? How would you send it somewhere? It is through real-time connectivity. So that, let's say, for example, you have your bike. All of us would be familiar with the bike, right? Now, we all want to know that, okay, why do I need to get my bike serviced after every 3 months? Why can't I, get it serviced before or after those 3 months, right? Now, because you do not have real-time information about, the performance of your bike or any machine for that matter, is why you go with those, fixed uh, timelines of 3 months. So, once you embed your bike or for that matter any machinery with sensors and with the help of real-time connectivity, you are able to take that data somewhere and process that data. Now that data will tell you whether you need to maintain or whether you need to operate on a certain whether you need to do any maintenance of that machine on a periodic basis or not, based on various processes, various algorithms, various programs or applications that you might be writing to process that data, right? Now, so as I mentioned that there are three components, but then when we talk about the overall the hierarchy through which your data or for that matter your IoT consists of, there are 7 layers in IoT. The first layer is your devices or your sensors. Quite understandably, you have the first layer, which is your device or your sensor, which is placed on that device. From there, you have your connectivity or your connectivity protocols, your connectivity modules, which take that data from that device, from that equipment onto a cloud. Now, I'm sure all of you would be aware of what a cloud is, but for a few people who were like me, who did not know much about technology when I was in college. I mean, I'm sorry I'm saying this, but then yeah, that was the truth. But yeah, so for few people who do not may not understand what a cloud is a centralized location where all your data, all your programs are stored. For example, Microsoft has its own cloud, Google has its cloud, Amazon has its cloud, GE has its own cloud and processing area has. So you take all of that data on that central area, in that central repository where you process, where your IoT platform resides, where entire data from your global portfolio is aggregated, assimilated, analytics is performed, and then you have your application layer sitting on top, where all of this is given to you in a UI, in a proper user interface, wherein you can interpret that in the form of graphs, in the form of charts, in the form of some real-time information. So right from sensors to application, there are 7 layers of IoT, right? Now, before we move ahead, let me show you a small video of which pertains to IoT.
Internet of Things today has become a key enabler for enterprises to drive business growth, achieve operational excellence, improve customer experience, and open up new revenue streams altogether. With IoT expected to create a value add of up to $11.1 trillion by 2025, it is addressing the long-standing priorities of key stakeholders across industries, such as getting real-time visibility into changing customers' expectations, improving manufacturing and supply chain efficiencies, and making their organizations smarter, intelligent, and agile. However, to be able to take full advantage, you need to accelerate your IoT journey with the right transformation partner who can address key challenges such as complex data and analytics, diverse platforms and ecosystems. Lastly, when and where to derive business value. Tata Consultancy Services, with its vast industry experience and rich domain expertise, drives business and operational transformation by providing end-to-end solutions for its customers, right from the sensors to the application level. With an extensive portfolio of offerings like connected cars, smart streetlights, and remote energy management, TCS is making your cities smarter. By leveraging artificial intelligence and creating a digital twin of your entire manufacturing plant, it is making your enterprise self-reliant and intelligent. And is touching the lives of millions of people with its IoT-powered, connected health solutions. TCS's range of solutions and services give real and quantifiable business value across all industry verticals. With a large ecosystem of partners and matured IPs, you get the best possible combination of solutions and services. TCS's capabilities have been appreciated by a plethora of leading industry analysts and has been recognized as an industry leader in IoT. Come, join with TCS, your best transformation partner, delivering business results with end-to-end solutions.
So yeah, this was a short video on to give you a perspective of what IoT is. Right. Now, before we move ahead, let me also give you this small piece of information that if you have any questions with regards to any point being discussed in this session, please you can leave down a note in the chat, in the live chat section on YouTube. I'll come back to those questions at the end of the sessions, and I'll try to answer all your questions. Now, before we move ahead, let me also give you a small caveat on why do you require IoT today. Why do you need to study IoT? What is the importance of IoT today? If you ask me, today IoT is that same revolution which IT brought in like 20 years ago. And if you read, just a simple Google search will tell you that by the year 2025, there will be more than 25 billion connected devices across the globe. Now that number is also supposed to change because the acceleration with which IoT is getting adopted across different sectors, different industries is phenomenal. And to set things in perspective, the current population of the world is 7.7 billion. So by 2025, the number of devices will be almost 4 times the number of people on the earth, meaning 4 connected devices for one single person will be the overall magnitude of IoT or for IoT devices. So it becomes absolutely important for you as engineers or us as engineers to study this topic and find out the various paradigms or find out the various avenues where you as an individual can contribute towards. Right now, there are so many different industries, right? There is retail, there is CPG, consumer packaged goods, there is manufacturing, utilities, energy resources, travel, transport, hospitality, XYZ. All of these industries have different implementations or different use cases of IoT. Now, what I'll do is I'll try to take you through, or I'll give you a glimpse of certain use cases where the organization that I'm associated with at the moment, TCS, is doing some phenomenal work in those industries. Now, let's come back to this point of why IoT, right? So, primarily, why IoT is required today is for these reasons. You need it. IoT gives you dynamic control of your equipment, of your daily life. It brings humans and machines closer. It improves your resource utilization. It is a technology integrator, gives you remote operations. It gives you predictive and preventive maintenance and control. Now, I will come back to this point of preventive and predictive maintenance and control because this is a very important concept, right? I will come back to this point. And if I forget, just leave this in the comment section, and I will definitely address. I'll give you a very good example of what this means. Now, where do I use IoT? Like I was mentioning, IoT has implementations across different industries. Right? Now, let us start with smart city or smart community and home automation. Now, at the beginning of the session, I gave you this example of of that entire home automation part or a smart home part, where Different things inside my home were connected to each other, were acting on their own based on their daily interaction with me. So IoT is not just sensorized devices, but it is intelligent sensorized devices. When I say intelligent, meaning uh, you have quite a lot of examples today also available where you have those smart variables which will suggest your which adapt to certain activities that you perform during the day. For example, if you wake up at 7 o'clock, your clock will automatically start synchronizing itself to with your activities and start beeping an alarm if you sleep more than that. Smart lights. I'm sure all of you are aware of what smart lights are. You would have seen, Philips, for example, is something which gives you smart light, facility today, wherein you can, put up the Philips bulb in your house and you can control the lights and you can control, turn on and turn off those lights, irrespective of where, if you are inside the house or not inside the house. Now, smart parking is another, good example today. Now, tell me how. I mean, I'm sure most of you who would have gone to a mall, you definitely have struggled with finding a parking slot, or for that matter, anywhere. You struggled, finding an empty parking slot. Correct. Now, with IoT today and with the entire connected paradigm that IoT brings along with itself, parking, though a very small example, but becomes extremely simplified, right? How does it happen is, for example, in a parking lot, you put up sensors across all the parking slots, and then if those sensors will tell you if whether a parking slot is empty or not, right? And that way, that information can be relayed onto your application or can be relayed onto a digital signage outside the parking lot. Now, smart buildings and security. Needless to say, there are n number of examples available about smart buildings and security. Let's take an example of security. Now, I'm sure you would have seen those security mechanisms which are available in many of those recent homes or houses which are being built today, where you have video com or intercom facilities to see who's outside your house. Now, taking this one step further, um, let's say so what you can do is you can program that video cam to take in your face as the identifier so that it can automatically open up your door, or it can identify suspicious activities outside the house using the video footage which your camera is capturing. Yes, those kind of devices are available. Now, energy management is your electricity management, consuming the right amount of electricity today that you need, because energy consumption, I'm sure you would be aware. um, the recent the G20 summit which happened, where the Paris Agreement was signed and India pledged a certain amount of energy savings. So these kind of use cases come in handy and are enabled with energy management. Similarly, water management, waste management. Let's talk about waste management. Because people living in Mumbai, you would have seen that there are various places where your dustbins, BMC dustbins overflow time and again, and then the only time when the BMC truck comes in is the next morning, right? Now, how do you make this dynamic and real time? So there are sensors which you can put up in those dumpsters or in those bins, which will automatically ping or will tell the BMC that okay, in certain area the garbage bin has overflowed. Please send a truck so that it can retrieve the garbage from that garbage bin. Now all of these concepts, smart homes, smart lights, parking, building, energy management, waste management, form part of your larger paradigm of smart city. Connected car is something I'll skip this for today. Maybe you can just because this in itself is a huge topic. To give you an example, Tesla is the right example of a connected autonomous car, right? uh, let's move to the next part. Now, okay, now TCS has done some substantial work as part of smart city projects. Jamshedpur is one. Dubai is a D3 project where TCS has set up smart buildings, smart mobilities. I'll not go too much in depth about this. Let me skip to the next part, healthcare. Now, uh, I'm sure with the recent COVID scenario, the COVID pandemic, the healthcare, pharma industry, and the medical industry has come into the has come into the limelight, right? But even before that, healthcare industry is supposed is and will be one of the most important pillars of human existence, right? Now, how does IoT come into the healthcare industry? Now, imagine that in a hospital. The nurses may or may not be available 100% of the time, monitoring the person who's been admitted over there in a room, right? Now, there are various devices, there are various sensors which can be used, are being used today to monitor the health condition, to monitor the physical well-being of our elderly. Now, let me quickly play one more video for you, which again TCS has been part of, where TCS has collaborated with Singapore Management University, and uh, it has come up with a smart healthcare solution. Now, pay attention to the subtitles because this is in this is in a foreign language. So I would request you to pay attention to the subtitles over here.
之前住很多地方，搬过来我跟我太太、跟我儿子住。2008年7月13号，我太太过世后，这2、3年我很少跟我儿子接触，我和我的邻居是有打招呼啦，好像很少来往了。我一个人更自由，不会觉得很麻烦。
我当义工一段时期的，做义工的时间没有一定的，是随我们的。早期的时候有很多是不给你进去他的家的，我们要去探访了很多次，他们才会说开门给你进去。做义工还是不够人手了，因为我们这种属于乐龄义工，也是很难说真的照顾到他们这样久的人。我不知道我可以做到多久啦，这种所以要鼓励那些年轻的啦，多多出来帮啦。
Shine Seniors project is about technology together with research on social behavioral studies to enable our elderly to age in place. So we have put in place sensors that are able to, in an unintrusive way, detect activity when the elderly is at home. There are two key things that this Shine Seniors project addresses. First is the immediate response to events such as extended or prolonged non-activity when the elderly is at home, and emergency push buttons. And the second one would be to pick up their patterns of daily living, and from that pattern to see whether we can identify anomalies from that normal behavior, and using those as a trigger for care and intervention by the community care providers. The Shine Seniors project is being led by the SMU TCS ICT Lab. TCS stands for Tala Consultancy Services. This project has to eventually benefit the elderly, and therefore the next steps would be to use the information derived from the technology to drive the appropriate care and intervention, and also using that to determine the impact through an assessment.
So yeah, this was about what or how IoT can be relevant or is being relevant in the healthcare industry. Now, there are many other similar examples where you have smart devices, There is. I'm not sure if you're aware of this company called as Hasbro, but this company is produces or manufactures toys in the United States. Now, what I am aware of it is that this organization was also trying to come up with some toys for the elderly, wherein they could monitor real time temperatures, real time heart rate of those elderly without in a non intrusive fashion. Now, what do you mean non intrusive fashion? Meaning, a smartwatch is something which explicitly makes you aware that okay, this smartwatch is for monitoring your health parameters, or it is monitoring certain things. There are certain items which do not let you explicitly know that okay, these would be monitoring your health parameters or stuff like that, so that it makes your life a little more easier and a little more comfortable. So yeah, there are organizations which are coming up with such toys, which are with such devices as well. Moving on, travel, transport, and hospitality. Okay, now for this also, let me give you an example of let me give you examples for smart hotels, airports, smart ports, and smart logistics. I'll give you examples of try to give you examples of each one of these. Now, for smart hotels, let me give you an example of someone I know. His name is Mr. Sethi. Mr. Sethi is a flamboyant businessman. He travels around the world, and never does he give second thoughts to where he stays, how his stay was, etc., etc. But once what happens is that Mr. Sethi was in the US and he checked into a hotel, but unfortunately his booking got cancelled. Right, so he had to walk into another hotel, and this is how his experience was. So Mr. Sethi enters into the hotel, the door automatically opens up. He walks towards the receptionist. The receptionist gives him a very beautiful smile, and he says that okay, I want to check into this hotel. What are the particulars that you would need? So the woman hands him over a tablet where he is asked to fill in his name, his phone number, and his personal details. And along with those personal details, he is asked to fill in some unusual questions. Like what kind of music do you like? What temperature do you like? Is it hot, cool, warm, cold, etc.? And what kind of lights do you like? What kind of colors do you like? So he found these, quite obviously found these questions pretty unusual, right? But nonetheless, he filled those answers and he gave the tab back to the, to the lady, to the receptionist. Now she asked him, sir, what kind of room would you like? He said that what kind of rooms are available. So she said, okay, sir, please take this, headgear, this device, wear it over your head, and I'll give you a tour of the kind of rooms that we have available with us. So that device was a virtual reality headset, which wearing after once he wore that, he was given a virtual tour of all the rooms which were available with him. Now, once he was able to experience what kind of rooms are available with that hotel, he was tempted to go for the best available room. So that way, Mr. Sethi booked the business suite for himself. So he handed over the credit card, and then the receptionist said that okay, Smith will escort you towards the room. Now, one thing which Mr. Sethi observed now was that Smith neither had that key nor did he have that swipe card or any key to open the room, and he was pretty confused that okay, how is this man going to open the room now, right? But nonetheless, he followed Smith towards in the lobby. Now, as they were walking inside the lobby, he noticed something that the lobby was not 100% lit, meaning the lights were running at 50% the capacity, but as and when he moved towards the different spots inside the lobby, the lights started coming up. He said, wow, these are smart lights. So that way they were able to control the lights inside the lobby. Now once he reached the room, Smith said that okay, sir, we've reached your room. He said that okay, open the room. He said okay, sir, please stand in front of the room. He was confused, but then he said okay, let me stand in front of the room. He stood in front of the door, and what he noticed was there was a small aperture on the door. Now that aperture had a camera which scanned his face. Using that facial scanning, the door identified that okay, this room belonged to Mr. Sethi, and the door opened. He said, wow, this is amazing. So using face recognition, they were able to control the security for the room. Okay. Now once he entered into the room, He noticed that there was gentle jazz music playing in, which he likes. The window shades were half open because letting in just the right amount of light inside the room, and the TV screen displayed "Welcome, Mr. Sethi." Now he was absolutely pleased and thrilled with the kind of welcome that he received inside the room, and he pulled out his wallet and gave a very hefty tip to the person who had escorted Mr. Sethi to the room. Now, what did that person do? He did nothing, but the entire experience of Mr. Sethi was controlled by these connected devices, right? Okay, so Smith left. Mr. Sethi closed the door, and it was late in the evening. Mr. Sethi was tired, so he just changed into his into his night robe, and he lied down on the bed, and he said, "Okay, TV on." So using the voice command, the TV turned on, and he was watching TV. Now, while watching TV, Mr. Sethi dozed off without putting down the window blinds, without controlling the AC temperature, and without turning off the AC, without turning off the TV. Now, after some moments, the window blinds came down automatically. The AC went on to a comfortable temperature on its own, and the TV turned off automatically. Why? Because all of these devices were connected, and there were certain non-intrusive sensors available in the room which could gauge that the guest had fallen asleep, and that he would want the devices to be set to that night mode level. Now the next morning, Mr. Sethi was woken up again by a doorbell. He said that okay, I did not order for anything, but then still he got up and he went towards the door. He opened the door. He saw that there were two people, one a maintenance guy and another one from the room service or from the restaurant. He had brought in him a cup of tea and a cup of coffee and some biscuits and some snacks. He said that okay, I did not order for any of these. Why have you come here, and what is this maintenance guy doing over here? So the room service guy tells him that, sir, the coffee machine and the tea the water heater inside your room is not working properly today. So we've got you some tea and some coffee, and this guy will fix the machine right away for you. He said that how were you able to gauge this? He said that, sir, all the devices inside the room are being monitored, managed and controlled by our remote operations center. All of these have sensors embedded in them, which tell you whether a machine is functioning properly. If it is functioning properly, yes, good. If it is not functioning properly, corrective actions can be taken. So with this experience, Mr. Sethi was absolutely delighted that okay, these people have taken such good care of myself. Now, this entire episode happened, and Mr. Sethi had to check out the next day and had to go for his meeting. Now, while he was checking out, he saw that there were people, or there were kids in the kids playing area playing with augmented reality gears, with virtual reality gears. And then when he moved out of the room of the hotel, this was the first time when Mr. Sethi called up his secretary and told him that okay, Lisa, please make a note of this hotel. Whenever I am in US, I would want you to check me into this same hotel. Now, you see how IoT or this entire concept of IoT was used by this hotel to bring about a complete change in the customers or their customers' experience. Because understand, hotel industry functions based on your experience, based on the customer's experience. And this is how they were able to utilize utilize Internet of Things to enhance their customers' experience, to make it more comfortable, to make it more delightful for their customer. Right now, coming to the next topic of let's take smart logistics. Right. Let me give you an example of a ship manufacturing company. I don't know if you've heard about this company called as Damen, but Damen is is a European company which manufactures ships. Now, what they wanted to do was similar to what this hotel industry is doing. They wanted to enhance the experience of their customers. Now, their customers meaning the people who buy their ships. Now, how would you enhance the experience of someone who is buying their ships? Is by giving them real-time alerts about the performance of the ship, giving them 100% uptime, or when I say uptime meaning 100% of the times their ship is functional, there is no breakdown, giving them preventive and predictive maintenance, meaning predicting when an equipment or when their ship will need some maintenance, so that they can before it falls down, before it breaks down, they're able to take the corrective actions, and thereby the availability of the ship is 100%. Let me quickly show you another video which shows which talks about TCS's engagement with this shipyard company. Watch this very carefully.
With the sea covering almost 3/4 of the Earth's surface, 90% of world transport, an equivalent of roughly 18 trillion euro, is done by vessels. In order to improve safety, sustainability, and efficiency, ships are becoming smarter and more connected. With 36 shipyards, more than 12,000 employees, and 1,500 suppliers worldwide, Damen is one of the world's leading shipbuilders.
We're building between 160 and 180 ships per year. We're building tugboats, we're building pilot boats, we're building yachts, but also ships for the offshore wind, crane barges for the terminals and harbors, but also, like you see in the gray boat here, it's a security boat for use in the oil and gas. We're using the model of standardization and building on stock. That means that we develop a chip type. We're building in many big series, so we produce them on stock so we can have delivery very fast. Also, because we're using standard components, the quality is very high and the maintenance costs are very low for the client.
This model is known as the Damen standard, providing an ideal balance between standardization and custom-built vessels. To stay ahead in the market, Damen partnered with TCS for building an integrated, collaborative IoT platform that collects data from its ships. In fact, transforming their ships into connected vessels.
On a certain moment, we saw that TCS had a good experience with a lot of customers in the market about digital journeys. And that's the reason why we started also this journey with TCS.
Damen vessels are equipped with 10 to 15,000 sensors collecting all sorts of data from the vessel.
We have the tanks, which is shown over here, telling me how much fuel is on board, fresh water, oil. But we can also enter the engines where we can see the performance of the engines, the power, the RPMs, the fuel consumption.
All these sensors are connected to Damen's connected vessel platform. But Damen and its customers aren't the only ones who benefit from the connected vessel platform.
The goal was to build a platform where we can share information in a collaborative way with our ecosystem. We can collect a lot of data and we can combine that with information from our ERP system or from our engineering platform. We can make our ships smarter. We can give our customers more service. And the third one, we can create new business models for Damen. In the past, we were only maybe shipbuilder, and we moved more and more to a maritime solution provider. We provide our customers a service from lead to decommissioning 30 years later. We see a lot of benefits for the future. For example, predictive maintenance, remote services, or savings in fuel consumption.
And by completing this complex digital transformation with TCS, Damen has, once again, set a new standard for the industry, which will help them to maintain their position as an innovation pioneer in the maritime industry.
Digitalization is coming very fast for industry, so everybody's investing in tools and sensors to make it much more remote monitored of all the equipment on board the ships. That will lead finally to autonomous ships, and maybe not in all ship types, at least at the small ship types in the very near future.
Okay, so hope that example was useful for you guys. Okay, moving on to utilities. Now, when I talk about utilities, it means all those industries which all your power generation industries, hydroelectricity generation, thermal power generation industries, and those heavy industries which we talk about, right? So right from energy generation to transmission and distribution to smart grids to energy consumption, all of these areas see a contribution from from IoT. Let's talk about energy generation. See, I'll give you an example of a thermal power plant. In a thermal power plant, how the basic fundamentals of how a thermal power plant works is that you have your coal, which is burnt, which heats up the water. That water gets converted into steam. That steam is then sent with very high pressure towards a turbine, which rotates, which then generates electricity. Now, in this entire process, there are so many areas which contribute towards environment pollution, and there are so many areas which require operational efficiency. So when I talk about operational efficiency, it means performing the day-to-day operations or performing your energy generation operations in the most optimized fashion. Now, let's talk about one part of the entire thermal power plant, which is the boiler. See, the boiler forms the heart of the entire thermal power plant. Now, what happens over here is that each time a new boiler is commissioned. When I say commissioned, meaning each time when a new boiler is fitted into a thermal power plant, it has to be tuned. When I say tuned, meaning it has to be given just the right amount of inputs so that it burns the coal at the most optimized temperature, and reduces the amount of flue gases or harmful gases like NOx, SOx, carbon monoxide, etc. into the atmosphere. Now, all these energy generation companies are bound by certain government, are supposed to be supposed to have regulatory compliance so as to reduce their overall emissions. Now, when you burn this coal or when you're trying to commission this boiler, those settings need to be tuned with just the right amount of settings. Meaning, for example, if in a boiler, it's not just one type of coal that goes in. There are multiple different types of coals that go in, and the amount of the thickness of that coal or the granularity of that coal also varies depending upon how much electricity you want, what kind of temperature you want, and which coal you're using. So and then there are air blowers inside the boiler which give air inside the boiler so as to help this entire coal to burn. Now and then there are more than 2,500 different parameters which go into deciding that what should be the optimal settings for the boiler combustion. Now, traditionally, without any artificial intelligence or without any logarithmic or algorithmic intervention, it's always a it's always a chief engineer who goes in and he sets these settings manually, does some trial and error, and then when he feels that okay, this is the best that can be done, and he leaves it at it. Now, in this entire process, the chief engineer burns on an average 120 kilotons of coal, right? And he utilizes more than 150 engineers for about 14 days to come or to arrive at the right settings. Now, in this entire process, when your boiler is not running at the optimum settings, you can imagine the amount of you're releasing into the air, and because your entire power plant is not functioning at the optimum settings, you're not able to generate the maximum amount of electricity from that percentage of coal that you're burning. Now, this is where artificial intelligence comes in. So what it's an example of TCS again. What TCS is doing right now is they've brought in an AI platform which is called as Process and Equipment Analytics and Control Framework, which simulates the entire behavior of the boiler. So using the domain knowledge, the contextual knowledge, the data science, TCS has designed this artificial intelligence framework wherein you can give all these settings. It will take in all these settings which you are giving, churn the numbers, and it will tell you that okay, this is the amount of gas which is being released, this is the amount of energy which is being produced, and these are 100 different other parameters. And it considers more than 10,000 combinations of such variables and gives you that one perfect setting that okay, if you use this coal at this granularity, and if your air blowers are at this angle and your fire is burning at this temperature, XYZ will be, or this is the amount of electricity which will be optimum for you. So what has this process done? It has removed the entire process of doing that manual trial and error, where you are burning coal, wasting money on burning coal, wasting money on not producing the optimum electricity, and releasing harmful gases into the atmosphere. It has removed all of these three from the entire equation and reduced the amount of time that you are taking today to tune that boiler from 14 days to 10 days. Almost 30% reduction in the amount of time, right? Similarly, in transmission and distribution also, I'm sure you must have seen transformers, right? And many a times we see that, okay, chalo light chali gayi, kyun? Arey transformer ud gaya, right? How do you prevent this? You prevent this similarly what you've done for other industries, meaning you put up sensors, you take real-time performance data of your machinery or your transformers, and you predict the failure or you prevent the failure of your transformers, right? All such examples on different industries are available throughout. I would not go into the nitty-gritties of all these examples. I would leave some of these examples for you to explore. Now, what I would want to do, we have just 10 more minutes before we open up for question answers, is to discuss about the current scenario, which is coronavirus, this entire scenario of COVID. Now, how can IoT be of use today in the coronavirus scenario? I'll take this example of the retail industry, and we'll discuss about that, because retail is something which we all would appreciate and understand, right? See, we all understand that today the retail industry, there are certain sections of the retail industry which are absolutely booming, because people are buying stuff left, right, and center, which is called as panic buying. And there are certain this section is called as the essential, which includes your groceries, your pharmacies, and then there are certain sections which are not seeing such a boom, right? Which is your apparel industry, jewelry, non-essentials, white goods, right? So today, if you look at the larger scale, your entire retail industry has been impacted across these 6 areas, which is your store operations. That how do you keep your operations, continue your operations, in this entire situation that we are in today. Second major impact is towards the labor. There is high employee churn and absenteeism, which needs to be managed, and you also need to manage the health and safety of your employees. Customer experience, because social distancing today is a norm. How do you fulfill the customer experience, or how do you give them that satisfaction of having that or coming to your store, or how do you give them that confidence that, okay, yes, my store today is safe for you to come in, right? I mean, if you look at your apparel industry, none of us today buy a t-shirt without trying that on today, correct? But then, do you think that is going to be possible tomorrow? I'm sure all of you must have heard that, okay, the trial rooms might be closed, there'll be social distancing, there'll be XYZ norms brought in, right? So all of these things need to be catered to today. Then we have demand fluctuation. Yes, because of panic buying, people or grocers today are not able to understand or not able to figure out what is the optimum amount of goods that they need to be that need to be stocked in their in the stores today. Then it is supply chain. Yes, we know that because because of all the lockdowns and borders being closed, goods movement of goods is being prevented from one place to the other. So for me as a retailer today, it is very important to know, right, where is my where is my entire supply stuck. So lack of real-time visibility in the supply chain is the major issue which the retailers are facing today. And then competition from e-commerce. We've always been facing, or the retailers have always been facing competition from from e-commerce. But then because of this lockdown scenario and because of essentials or non-essentials not being available, e-commerce players have come into the picture. So see, you have to look at these things not just from the Indian scenario, but also from a global scenario, right, where essentials and non-essentials are still being allowed to be delivered to their to the doorstep. when people are just asked or encouraged not to step out, but then all these services are already open and running, right? And then security is one very important, because as your digital initiatives increase, your digital hacks also increase, your cyber attacks also increase. And then similarly, in store, within the store, security to prevent against pilferage is also a major challenge. Now taking all these major impact areas into consideration, what we have tried to do is we have tried to identify three key areas where interventions which can be enabled by digital initiatives. One is store operational continuity, then we have supply chain optimization, and then you have customer experience and employee safety. Now, what we have tried to do is you have to understand that as an engineer, if you were asked to develop an application today to ensure store operational continuity, what would be those various areas which you would try to tackle today? You would definitely have to think in a chronological manner, that okay, what are those services, those bare minimum things one needs to be operational and deliver essential services today, and then how soon can you, or how can digital intervention or digital initiatives be brought in to come back to full scale operations, and then how can you transform your entire processes with digital intervention to become completely resilient become completely resilient to any such pandemic, any such calamity, if it were to happen in the future. Correct? Now, just for your reference over here, just go through this this entire slide deck over here. Contactless services is something which is very important to keep your store operations continued. Improved in-store security and loss prevention is something very important. See, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this or no, but then in many stores, in many big stores like Walmart or Kroger's, or Co-op, if you are watching this from the UK, there are self-checkout kiosks. Now, these self-checkout kiosks are set up with the basic trust within the customers that okay, they will pay for whatever they're buying, but we understand that not 100% compliance is we have 100% compliance for these kind of activities. So using video analytics, you can see using a CCTV camera, you can put up a CCTV camera on top of your self-checkout kiosks, and using the backend algorithms, you can check if someone is buying or paying for whatever he is buying, yes or no. If he is not buying, what are the corrective actions one needs to take, right? Now, this is something which they need right now as of today, because you need to reduce the number of people in the stores. You do not have enough people to cater to the daily operations, and therefore you need these self-checkout options available, and to prevent the theft, you need IoT or video analytics based interventions available options today. And then you have optimization of your utilities, mixed reality and remote collaboration, meaning using virtual reality and augmented reality to collaborate with your in-store employees and to provide them with real-time assistance. And then in the reinvent phase, what we say is that complete automation of operations and bringing in algorithmic labor and store space planning, semi-autonomous and complete autonomous operations with the help of robots and artificial intelligence, so that you reduce the dependence on human presence inside the store, and still you're able to continue your operations 100% of the time. Next is optimizing your supply chain. See, like we discussed a few minutes back, the primary problem which the retailers are facing today is the complete disruption of their supply chain, because they do not know which product is stuck where. Because of dynamic demand, they are not able to cater to the because of dynamic spike and increase or reduction in the demand, they are not able to control their supply chain in the real-time basis, because they do not have that real-time visibility into their supply chain. So right now, what you need is something called a smart inventory tracking using RFIDs, sensors, and again video analytics, and then real-time remote monitoring of products at vehicle and SKU level for managing the demand fluctuations, and then bringing the entire store to people. So so there is this very interesting concept that if people cannot come to the store, let's take the store to the people. Like, let's say, for example, I'm just using this as an example. Let's take DMart or Nilgiris, for example, right, which are fairly prevalent in India today. What they can do today is that they can, most of the people might be using or would be using their apps today, right? So they could encourage their users to track their trucks. So they could load all their inventory into their truck, and they could encourage their people to track the movement of their truck. They could give their orders on the application, and then that truck with all the inventory would reach their area. They could go out, buy it from that truck, and then come back home. So this is just a nascent, a very new evolving concept which the retail industry is still not trying today. Now in the evolve phase, there is something called as dock optimization. I will not go into the details of this. I'll just read out what it means. Automated truck loading and unloading systems, augmented reality based, freight assist. So you could just use these terms and maybe, do a secondary research to learn more about these terms which I'm using. Because of paucity of time, I might not be able to go into the details today, right? And in the reinvent phase, what is required is a complete autonomous supply chain. With the least amount of manpower availability, you're still able to operate your supply chain. Meaning, autonomous trucks driving your from your picking up your raw material from the manufacturing units, bringing them to your distribution centers. Your distribution centers utilizing robots and cobots. A cobot is a collaborative robot, right? Cobots, then using AI and ML based solutions for product location, automated storage and retrieval systems to sort the items which have been brought in from the manufacturing plant, and then again retrieving those items and then dispatching it to different retail outlets where they see those kind of demands coming in. For example, let's say that in Chembur they're seeing hand sanitizers being required more. In Santa Cruz they see that Dettol is required more, or in some other place they're seeing hand wipes being asked for more. So accordingly, dispatching the right material to the right place, and all of this being done without any human intervention, right? All of this falls in the larger umbrella of autonomous or smart supply chain. And then we come to the most important aspect of the store operations or retail, which is customer experience and employee safety. See, we all understand today that social distancing is the norm today and will be the norm for the next, maybe, trying to be optimistic here, but at least for next 1 year or so. Maybe then after that I hope to come back to the normal self that we were. But then at least for the next 1 year, social distancing is going to be the norm, right? How do you ensure that two people are not coming in close proximity to each other? So using your existing CCTV infrastructure, all the retail stores today have CCTV infrastructure available today, correct? Using your existing CCTV footage, you can take in that feed, and you can, if two people are coming in close proximity to each other, and an alert could be sounded, and they could be asked to move away. Now, video analytics is just one means of achieving social distancing. There are other examples of there are smart wearables or Bluetooth low energy beacons or tags which can be used, right? So you have a tag which will be given to you. So this BLE beacon concept is more relevant for warehouse operators or warehouse employees. So a tag could be given to you along with your iCard. You're wearing that tag, and if you come in close proximity to certain people, or two people come in close proximity, immediately an alert is sounded. Now, this concept also becomes important when it comes to contact tracing. Now, these BLE beacons or this video footage can be used to go back in the history and check if two people have, if suppose, God forbid, if there is someone who's COVID positive, right, and it is detected later on, and then you need to do a contact tracing, right? So if you've noticed today, the government is struggling with contact tracing, right? So at least in a small in-house scenario also, how do you do this? So with the existing or with the footage that you have available, you could easily go back in time and you could see, or that algorithm could tell you that person X who has been infected has come in contact with person A, B, C, D, E, and so that it becomes easier for you to identify those people and isolate them, right? And then there are other things like contactless shift turnovers, store of the future, differentiated memory. I will not go into the details of these things, but you could refer these for your future, for your understanding for the future. Now I'll come back to this part where we talk about in-store operations, or making the stores a safe environment for colleagues and customers. So how does IoT, or how does this connected paradigm help you today, help the retailers today, is what I want to focus on in the last 5 or 6 minutes of our session today. So let's say if you're a store colleague, which means you're a store employee. So as soon as you enter, you're trying to enter into the store, you have your thermal imaging scanners which are put up on the entrance. They scan your body temperature, and if your body temperature is within the permissible limits, you're allowed to enter into the store. And then there are you have continuous store air quality monitoring. Now, okay, let me emphasize on this point of air quality monitoring. Now, it would be, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but one of the research papers has mentioned that COVID virus, the probability of spread of this COVID virus increases if particulate matter increases in the air, because it clings onto that particulate matter and stays in the air for longer amount of time, right? So in order to prevent this from happening, retailers across the globe are trying to continuously monitor the store air quality, right? Now you have your IoT, you have your sensors which can be placed across the stores, which will keep monitoring the store quality on a real-time basis. Now then we talk about PPE compliance, meaning personal protective gear compliance. So we all understand today that, right, that it is imperative for all of us to wear a mask, and in some cases it is also advised to it is also advised to wear gloves, right? So using your existing CCTV footage, you could do that. It's not as easy as it sounds, because it sounds very it sounds very normal that using CCTV, but then automating that part, it involves a large amount of artificial intelligence capabilities in this, that your camera becomes your eye and your algorithm becomes your brain, which is running inside the which is running in the background. So it checks if someone is wearing a mask or not. If someone is not wearing a mask, immediately an alert is thrown up, right? And then monitoring colleagues' hygiene practice and etiquettes, meaning if there are certain etiquettes, meaning if some colleague is supposed to wash their hands or use hand sanitizers before operating on certain machines, we can monitor using the video footage, and you could configure those kind of alerts. If there those compliance parameters are not being adhered to, and then ensuring food safety across the entire store. Now similarly, for customers also who are entering into your store, body temperature check is imperative. And I'm sure all of you who have stepped out or have gone to a grocery store, you would have seen that grocers are not allowing 100 people inside the store at a given time, right? So how do you prevent this? That using again. So the idea here is that using your maybe using your existing camera footage, or there are other devices, other counters which are available today, which could count the number of people entering and exiting the store, right? Using those kind of devices, you can allow or disallow number of people entering into the store. And similarly, the PPE compliance, sanitization, social distancing could come. Let's start with servitization. Now, what is servitization? So one second. Yeah. So when we talk about servitization, let me take the example of an air conditioner. Now today, all of us or most of us, use an air conditioner today, right? How do we use an air conditioner today? Is we go to the store, we buy the air conditioner, we put it up on the wall, and we start using it. But have you ever thought that do you really need an air conditioner? What is your exact need? Your exact need is cold air or a cold temperature, correct? So for that, do you actually need to buy an air conditioner? No, right? Now, if let's take example of Voltas, for example, because it's a Tata company, I can safely take their name, right? Now let's talk about Voltas. So let's say that Voltas comes in and says that okay, instead of paying me 25, 30,000, 35,000 rupees for my air conditioner, you take my AC for free. You take my AC for free, and I will only charge you for the number of hours that you are using my air conditioner. I will charge you 10 rupees per hour that you are using my air conditioner for. Now you say that okay, this is a very lucrative deal because for you, you do not have to invest 35,000 rupees. You do not have to invest in the maintenance of this air conditioner because once Voltas says that okay, I will, you take my air conditioner for free. I will do the maintenance. I will ensure that whenever you turn on my AC, cold air comes out of the AC. That is my guarantee. So you say that okay, the entire headache of buying the device, maintaining the device is not mine today, and I only have to pay 10 rupees per hour. Just an example, right? 10 rupees per hour. So let's say if you use the AC for 10 hours a day, 100 rupees per day, that is 3,000 rupees per month, right? Or maybe 10 rupees may not be a good deal because you cover 36, but whatever, let's say 5 rupees. So that ways the amount of money that you are spending on a particular device drastically reduces. And for the person who is, and for Voltas, you become their perpetual customer. Meaning for them, till the time you are using their AC, they have an inflow of money coming to them. So this entire process of changing the business model from selling your product to the customer to selling the service to the customer is called as servitization. Now this example could be used for any other example. I mean, could be extrapolated to any other use case as well, right? Now let's talk about data analytics. Now, what is data analytics? Data analytics is nothing but understanding what your data is trying to tell you. There are four types of analytics today. Meaning, there is descriptive analytics, which describes the data which is there in front of you. Meaning, if you plot 1, 2, 3, 4, or if there are 100 people in a class, and if you plot their heights or if their weight on a graph, one after the other, that is called as descriptive analytics. Meaning, it is describing the height of the entire class. Correct? Then there is something called as predictive analytics. Then there is diagnostic analytics. So descriptive, then diagnostic. What does diagnostic means? Diagnostic analytics means deriving some information from that data. Okay, so when you have plotted the entire the height of all the people inside the class, then you see that okay, if I take the average height of the entire class is 5 feet 7 inches. This is called as diagnostic analytics. Then it comes to predictive analytics, meaning using this data or using the historical data, if you are able to predict something for the future, that is called as predictive analytics. Meaning, let's say for example, if there is a new boy coming into the class, you predict that okay, more or less his height will be around 5 feet 7 inches. So this is what is called as predictive analytics. See, this is not as simple as I'm making it sound. It is, it involves fairly complicated regressions and algorithms in the background. But then, for your understanding, I'm trying to oversimplify this, right? So once predictive analytics is done, then you have prescriptive analytics or preventive or prescriptive analytics. Meaning, designing your algorithm in such a way that using the historical data, it can tell you that if you do certain actions, certain output will be received. So in order to achieve a certain output, you run a mathematical equation, you give certain inputs, and you get the desired output. So this entire thing is called as prescriptive analytics, which prescribes you certain inputs to get a desired output. Artificial intelligence is a derivative of this entire prescriptive and predictive analytics. So pretty much they overlap on each other. And I also saw one question in the chat, that what is the difference between IoT and artificial intelligence. So artificial IoT is the umbrella phenomenon, technology, or whatever you want to call it. It's the umbrella. Then artificial intelligence is what gets fed into your IoT. Meaning, artificial intelligence sits inside the devices which make your devices smarter, right? Same as machine learning is something which when your devices become smart enough to learn from any change, any material change or any change in their environment, and if they are able to adapt to that change, is called as machine learning. So artificial intelligence and machine learning are more or less very similar in concept with each other. Augmented reality, virtual reality, I will not cover today. I mean, maybe you could just Google them. Now, what I will do now is I will go back to the questions that you guys have asked me, right? And then we'll quickly discuss those questions, and we can then close the session. Okay. Okay, let me check. Okay, so there is someone who has asked about IoT security and IoT anti-hacking. See, yes, with the number of devices increasing today, the probability of hacking into those devices also increases. But yes, organizations today have also started working on device level security and foolproof security. In fact, TCS, as a matter of fact, has a solution which is called as embedded secure element framework. So this is a framework which sits at the device level, which not just prevents hacks at the software level but also at the device. If someone tries to hack into the device, it will stop that. So I may not be able to give you the exact details in a very short time today, but then just know that yes, those kind of solutions are available today. And I've already answered how are IoT and AI different from each other. Okay, so Mr. Parmeshwar Managopal has asked that how is IoT useful in agricultural field today? This is a very interesting question. Let me address this. See, understand what is important for a farmer today. For a farmer, it is important that he should know what kind of crops he can grow or what is the condition of his soil as of today, right? Number one. Number two, what kind of crops can he grow in that soil, right? Number three, what is the demand for those products which he is trying to grow in that soil as of today in the market, and what would be the value for that crop or for whatever he's trying to grow at that time. So let's start about talking about the soil quality. So there are certain sensors, there are certain devices which are available today, which you put inside the soil. It will give you that what is the humidity of the soil today, and there are certain, I'm not a farmer, but then I just know about these devices available. Then it will tell you the entire quality of the soil available today. All of this information can be given to the farmer on a real-time basis. So once he knows that what is the quality of the soil, that application will tell him that for your soil, these are the kind of crops that you can grow today with the least amount of inputs from your side. So this input has come from the application. Then once those then it will also get a recommendation that what is the best time to start growing these crops, right? Once he has grown these crops, that application will also tell him that what is the best place to sell these crops or this produce. Then once you've identified the place, it will also tell you that what is the current market demand and what is the current market value for this product. Because you understand, as of today, you would have seen that most of the farmers are not aware what is the price at which their products are getting sold in the market today. Correct? And that is where the entire middlemen or the middlemen who take in the maximum profit from the farmers come in, right? So if we are able to connect the farmers directly to the end consumers, the entire middleman cycle can be eliminated, and the farmers can be given a real-time, realistic view of what products will fetch them what value, and are they capable to get that to grow that or to produce that product. So incidentally, TCS again has a solution called as M-Krishi, which does the exact same thing which I have just narrated to you today. So it works on the Integra IoT platform of TCS, and all of these services are available for farmers to utilize. Now, I will not go into the details of the business model, But yes, just for your information, this it is available. So this is how IoT on a very basic scale can contribute towards agriculture. Now let me go towards the next question. I hope Parmeshwar I've answered your question, right? Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Let me check if there are any more questions coming in. Okay. I see. Okay. So there is one question from Mr. Gaikwad. What is digital twin? Let me take this question. To explain in a very simple terms and in very simple terminologies, let's take example of. I started with the example of a bike, right? Let me go back to that example. That okay? If you are able to embed sensors into different parts of your bike, and if you are able to represent the performance of your bike in the form of a digital dashboard, that on a very basic scale is how I would explain what a digital twin is. A complete digital replica of my physical device in the form of various dashboards, in the form of various graphs, is what a digital twin is. So yeah, that's how I would describe a digital twin as. How to manage fallback of IoT devices? Suppose if I arrange one fallback, then it will increase cost in arrangement and it's still very costly. I'm not sure, Sagar, if I understand your question properly. When you say fallback, meaning uh, something like like a DR, disaster recovery. If one device fails, immediately another device should pick up. Correct? I hope you mean that. And yes, your point is correct that okay, you might need those fail proofs to be set up. But see, the understanding of these IoT devices being very so those end sensor devices are not as costly as we assume them to be. What's costly are the gateways, what's costly are the edge devices. And edge devices are nothing but your CPUs, right? And CPUs are not as many in numbers as compared to your devices, right? So if your device fails, more often than not, what I have observed today is that people prefer to replace them instead of having a fail proof available for them. But then yes, this also talks about predicting their failure as well. So this gets taken care of while you are designing the entire architecture for your IoT implementation. Can you highlight on AI in education? Prachi ma'am, I'm not sure if I understand your question correctly. When you say artificial intelligence in education, I don't know what you mean by that, but then can you elaborate your question in the comment section? Maybe then I'll be able to take it up. And if there are no more questions, I think we can conclude the session for today. I would request others to get in touch with me, maybe offline. You could just type Tejas Madan on Google, and the first LinkedIn profile that you see would be mine. We can connect on LinkedIn, and we can discuss more about IoT, artificial intelligence, data analytics, and any other guidance that you as students would need. I'll be more than happy to help you. Right. So with this, I would like to conclude today's session. It was very interesting to be doing this. This was something different that I've not done in the past. I usually host live sessions with students and associates of my organization. But then yes, this was a very interesting engagement for me as well. And I thank all of you for giving me your time. Thank you.